Everyone thought it was just a wounded K9 German Shepherd, until they saw what was under the blanket. He was found curled up in the rain, covered in cuts and ash, barely breathing. The rescue team thought he was just another abandoned K9, forgotten after service, discarded like a broken tool. But when a paramedic lifted the corner of the soaked blanket wrapped around his body, they stopped. What they saw underneath changed everything, and left even the hardest men in tears. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. It helps us bring you more powerful and inspiring stories like this one, because what this German Shepherd did is something no one will ever forget. Pregunta AO ChatGPT. The rain was coming down in sheets over a remote stretch of highway outside Flagstaff, Arizona. Emergency crews were already on site, swarming a charred, twisted van that had rolled off the shoulder and caught fire after skidding on oil-slick asphalt. Flashing lights painted the night in red and blue, but no one noticed a dark figure lying several yards away, partially hidden beneath a torn emergency blanket, until Mia Carter saw it. "Hold on," she said, stepping away from the wreckage. She was a paramedic known for her instincts, and something, she didn't know what, pulled her eyes toward the ditch beyond the scorched guardrail. She saw movement. Not big, not frantic, just a slow shift of shape under the soaked white blanket. Mia ran. As she dropped to her knees, her hand brushed the edge of the covering and pulled it back. Her breath caught in her throat. It was a German Shepherd, a big one, scarred, bleeding, burned around the hind legs, his coat matted with mud, ash, and dried blood. But even more haunting than his injuries were his eyes, wide open, golden brown, staring up at her without blinking. He didn't whimper. He didn't move. He was waiting. "Oh, my God," she whispered. "You're K9. She reached out slowly, careful not to startle him. His ears twitched, but he didn't growl. There was no aggression, just exhaustion and something else. Guarding. "Over here," she called out. "We got a live one. K9 unit, badly injured." Firefighters rushed over, crouching beside her, already prepping the stretcher. But then something strange happened. As they moved to lift the dog, Mia noticed his paws shift protectively, not toward himself, over something. "Wait," she said, holding up a hand. "Don't move him yet." She reached forward and gently lifted the rest of the blanket, and that's when she froze. It wasn't just a dog. Cradled beneath his front legs, tucked tightly against his chest, was a newborn baby. So small, so still, wrapped in part of a fire-singed uniform shirt. The firefighter beside her gasped. "Is that—" "It's alive," Mia whispered, 2 fingers against the infant's chest. Heartbeat is faint, but it's there. No one said a word. Even the rain seemed to pause. The dog shifted his head, barely, as if to acknowledge them. His eyes met Mia's again. "Don't take her from me," and then slowly closed. He passed out. Later that night, at the County Animal Emergency Center, Dr. Emily Shaw stitched the shepherd's leg under a heat lamp and whispered every few seconds to herself, "You're a miracle, buddy. A damn miracle." The baby, meanwhile, had been rushed to Flagstaff Medical Center and placed in neonatal intensive care. Both were stable, but no one could explain how they'd ended up there. The van had been a rental. There were no military tags, no police department K9 designation, and no missing baby report had been filed anywhere in Arizona, which left one question that no one could answer. Who was this dog, and whose baby was he protecting? Mia came back the next morning. The vet looked up from her chart. He's still sedated, but he made it through the night. Broken ribs, bad burns on the hindquarters, but no internal bleeding. And the baby? Still in NICU. But the doctor said if she'd been out there another 30 minutes, she wouldn't have made it. Mia stepped closer to the cage, where the dog lay wrapped in soft blankets, IVs running into his paw. His fur was still dirty, but his breathing was steady. "I need to know his name," Mia whispered. Dr. Shaw nodded. "He has a partial chip. It's military. Says his name is Ranger." "Ranger," Mia repeated, her voice softening. "You saved her, didn't you?" The dog stirred slightly. One ear twitched, and for the first time since the crash, he let out a low, almost inaudible sound, not a growl, not pain, a whimper, as if to say, "Find her." And Mia knew this wasn't over, not even close. 2 days had passed since the rescue, but the questions only multiplied. Ranger was healing slowly under constant care at the Flagstaff Veterinary Trauma Center, while the newborn, now nicknamed Hope by the nurses, remained in the neonatal ICU, fighting for every breath. The media had picked up the story by now. Hero Dog Saves Abandoned Baby in Crash was plastered across local headlines, followed by grainy photos of Ranger's burned coat and the fragile, swaddled infant being wheeled into the hospital. But there were no names, no claims. No one stepped forward to say she's mine. Mia Carter couldn't let it go. Her job as a paramedic had put her in chaotic situations before, but this one sat in her chest like a stone that refused to move. Ranger's eyes haunted her. That expression when he had refused to move, when his paws shielded that child like she was the last thing left in the world that mattered. And she couldn't stop asking, who trained a dog like that, and why would they leave him behind? At 9:47 a.m., she walked into the vet clinic with 2 cups of coffee, one for herself, one for Dr. Emily Shaw, who looked like she hadn't slept in a week. "You're back," Dr. Shaw said. Couldn't stay away. They stood quietly for a moment at Ranger's enclosure. He was awake now, eyes alert but calm, one paw shaved for 4, the rest of his body still wrapped in gauze and burn cream. "He knows you," Dr. Shaw murmured. "I feel like I know him," Mia replied. Then she took a deep breath. "You said his chip was partial. But military. Can we trace it?" Emily frowned. "I've already tried. It's encrypted. Not police. Not civilian. Has to be Black Ops or ex-military K9. And they don't like when you dig." Mia leaned against the wall. "What about the baby? Any updates?" Still no claim. But the blood work came back this morning. She's mixed race, possibly North African descent. And she hesitated. "What?" "She's healthy. Too healthy. No signs of premature birth or exposure, which means someone took care of her for days before that crash. Fed her, changed her, kept her warm. She didn't just get dumped." "So Ranger didn't find her," Mia said slowly. Emily nodded. He was carrying her. That afternoon, Mia drove to the crash site again. The rain had washed most of the evidence away, but she needed to see it with fresh eyes. She stood beside the scorched outline of the wrecked van, breathing in the wind, listening. There had been no other vehicle reported, no passenger bodies found, no tracks leading in or out besides the tire skids. But something about the location didn't sit right. It was too remote. If someone was transporting a baby under the radar, military or otherwise, this stretch of road, off the main highway and nearly invisible at night, was exactly where you go to avoid detection. That's when she noticed it. A scorched metal tag, partially buried under soot near a patch of burn grass. She crouched, brushed it clean with her sleeve. It read, K9 Unit 237A Ranger. Operative SSGT, Tyler Bishop. U.S. Army, Restricted Transport. Mia stood slowly, heart racing. She had a name. 2 hours later, she sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, a dozen tabs loaded with military records, obituaries, and K9 program reports. She found him. Staff Sergeant Tyler Bishop, Army Ranger, K9 handler. Honorably discharged 8 months ago after a covert rescue mission overseas left him wounded and his team scattered. He was 32. No family. Last known location, Tucson, Arizona, except that he hadn't appeared in any public record since. It was like he'd vanished. Mia picked up the phone and made a call. "Flagstaff Police?" The dispatcher answered. "This is Mia Carter, paramedic. I have information regarding the injured German shepherd found near Highway 49 2 nights ago." "Yes, ma'am." "I believe his handler is Staff Sergeant Tyler Bishop, former military. He's missing." There was a pause. "Hold, please." 3 minutes passed. A new voice came on. "Mail, commanding. This is Detective Raoul Jennings." "Say that name again." Tyler Bishop, K-9 handler. His dog is in recovery. Saved a baby from a crash. But I think the crash wasn't an accident. There was silence again. Then, where are you? An hour later, Mia sat in a police interview room. Detective Jennings paced across from her, reading over a printed file. You understand this man's military record is classified, he said. I understand his dog is the reason the baby's alive. He tapped the paper. Bishop was off the radar, officially missing. But his last call before disappearing, he said he found something he wasn't supposed to. Mia leaned in. What was it? Jennings hesitated. Then he opened a manila envelope and slid a photo across the table. It showed Bishop standing next to Ranger, both wearing tactical gear, posing next to a Land Rover. But in the background, slightly blurred, was a woman holding an infant. That baby? Mia asked. Jennings nodded. We think so. Intelligence says the woman was a civilian they rescued from a trafficking camp in Morocco. She was being used to smuggle infants out of war zones. When Bishop realized what was happening, he went AWOL. Mia stared at the photo. He went rogue to save her and the baby. Looks like it. Where's the mother now? Jennings' voice dropped. She didn't make it. The van you found was hers, burned beyond recognition. Bishop wasn't found at the scene. No trace. But the assumption is... He died protecting the child, Mia finished. No, the assumption is that he died after giving Ranger the order to protect her at all costs. Mia felt a chill crawl down her spine. Ranger didn't just survive. He obeyed. Back at the clinic, Mia entered the room quietly. Ranger was awake, watching her. She sat beside his cage, voice shaking. I know who you are now, she whispered. And I know what he asked of you. Ranger blinked. She pulled out the photo, held it to the glass. I don't know how far you ran, or what you went through, but you didn't let go. Not once. A soft thump, his tail weakly hitting the blanket. Mia smiled, tears in her eyes. I'm going to find out where he is. I promise. And until then, I'll watch her, just like you did. Ranger slowly closed his eyes, but not from pain this time, from peace. He knew he wasn't alone anymore. The wind howled across the red desert behind the clinic that night. Inside, the lights were low, the building silent, except for the occasional beep of a heart monitor and the soft, rhythmic breathing of a German shepherd lying still in his crate. Ranger hadn't moved much, but his eyes were wide open. He never slept deeply. Not anymore. Not since that night. His ears twitched. Footsteps. Not Mia's. Not the vet. Too heavy. Too deliberate. He stiffened under the blanket. Outside, a black SUV had parked under the cover of darkness. Two men exited. One in civilian clothes, the other in what looked like a private security uniform. They didn't knock. They didn't ask for permission. They were here for something. Or someone. Inside the vet's small office, Dr. Emily Shaw had fallen asleep on the couch, charts scattered across her lap. Ranger's file sat open on her desk, next to a crumpled photo of him and Bishop, one she hadn't shown Mia. Because in that photo, clipped discreetly inside the military record, was something shocking. A set of coordinates handwritten in black ink. Coordinates in the middle of the Kaibab National Forest, 2 hours from where the crash had taken place. Dr. Shaw hadn't told anyone yet, but someone else knew, and now they wanted Ranger back. Meanwhile, across town, Mia sat in the NICU, a hand resting gently on the plastic shell of Baby Hope's incubator. The nurses gave her space. By now, they all knew Mia was the reason Hope was alive. And more than that, they sensed something deeper forming between them, not obligation. Something closer to guardianship. Hope stirred slightly, her tiny fingers curling into a fist. She's fighting, Mia whispered to herself. Just like him. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. A deep voice crackled through the speaker. You're the one who pulled the shepherd out of the crash. Her spine straightened. Who is this? You want answers about Ranger? About Bishop? Come alone. 1 a.m. Follow the signal. The line cut. Her screen showed only a blinking GPS pin. Kaibab Forest. The same coordinates printed on Ranger's file. Back at the clinic, the door creaked open. Emily stirred, but it was too late. The two men were already inside. They didn't go for her. They went straight to Ranger's room. One of them pulled out a tranquilizer. "Only need the dog," he muttered. "Get the case. He's worth 7 digits in tech." The other approached the crate. Ranger didn't move until the moment the latch clicked. Then he lunged. The metal clanged. The men stumbled back as Ranger growled through his muzzle, blood pumping through his limbs with a burst of adrenaline that defied the sedatives in his system. Emily screamed and rushed in. "What are you doing?" One of the men shoved her aside. Ranger backed up, crouched, teeth bared. He couldn't run, but he wouldn't go quietly. Then headlights flooded the front of the clinic. Mia's Jeep. She had returned early to grab her tactical flashlight before heading into the forest. She saw the SUV, saw the door ajar, and her instincts exploded. She grabbed her emergency radio and called dispatch. Break-in in progress. 2 males, armed. They're after the K9. Then she ran in, step away from him. Mia shouted, flashlight beam blinding one of the men. He cursed, shielding his eyes. Emily grabbed a syringe from the drawer and jabbed the second man's leg without thinking. He collapsed instantly. The first man pulled a small firearm, but Mia was faster. She tackled him to ground with a roar that shocked even herself, adrenaline making her limbs feel weightless. The gun clattered to the side. Police sirens wailed outside moments later. Within minutes, the men were cuffed. Ranger was safe. But now, there was no denying it. This wasn't just a story about a hero dog. This was a story someone wanted buried. 2 hours later, with police at the clinic and Emily under protective custody, Mia drove alone into Kaibab Forest. She shouldn't have gone. She knew that. But something about the voice on the phone, calm, measured, military, had told her this was her only shot at the truth. She parked near an abandoned firewatch station and followed the trail on foot, flashlight cutting through the thick trees. Finally, after nearly 30 minutes of hiking, she saw it. A figure, standing by a burned-out log, had pulled over his head, body thin but straight. He turned slowly as she approached. The light hit his face. Scar across the jawline. Deep brown eyes. Worn hands. She gasped, "Bishop." He didn't smile, just nodded. "You found the dog." "And the baby," she whispered. He lowered his hood. "Is she alive?" "Yes, they both are." Ranger never left her side. A long pause. Then Bishop exhaled and sat down on the log like his bones were older than the earth itself. "I thought I was dead too," he murmured. "Then I watched them drive away. Saw the fire behind me. I couldn't follow. I thought it was over. Why didn't you come back?" Mia asked gently. "They're hunting us. Not just for what we saw, but for what we stopped." He looked up. She wasn't just a trafficking victim. She had names, places, data. She gave it to me before she died. That's why they set the fire. They wanted it erased. "And the baby?" He nodded. "Born in a prison camp. She's not just a victim either. She's a witness." Mia felt the ground shift beneath her. "This goes deeper than I thought." "I've been hiding," Bishop said. "But now that I know they're still coming, I'll stop hiding." He stood slowly, his voice calm but solid. "Take me to them." By sunrise, Tyler Bishop walked into the vet clinic like a ghost returning to a world that thought him buried. The moment Ranger saw him, everything changed. The K9 didn't bark, didn't whine. He just lifted his head, eyes wide, and slowly, painfully, tried to stand. Tyler dropped his knees. "Easy, boy. You did good." Ranger leaned forward, muzzle against Bishop's chest. And for the first time since the mission fell apart, he let go. A low, quiet sound escaped from the dog's throat. A release of 2 years of pain, duty, loss, and finally, peace. Mia watched him from the hallway, hand over her heart. No words could match what she had just seen. Because sometimes, when a soldier and his dog find each other again, it's not just a reunion, it's a resurrection. The vet clinic was still under police guard the next morning, but that didn't stop the press vans from circling like vultures outside. Reporters shouted through the gates. One of them even tried to fly a drone over the parking lot until a Flagstaff officer shot it out of the sky. Inside, it was eerily quiet. Mia sat in the corner of the office, holding baby Hope, wrapped tightly in a hospital-issue blanket. She'd been cleared for temporary foster custody while the case was under federal review, but no one dared say what they were all thinking. This wasn't just a custody case anymore. It was a war. Tyler Bishop leaned against the opposite wall, bruises along his jaw, bloodshot eyes locked on the floor. Ranger lay between them, breathing calmly now, head resting over one paw, watching them both. "We're out of time," Tyler finally said. Mia looked up. "The men who tried to take Ranger," he continued, "they weren't working for a criminal gang. Not directly. They were private contractors, Black Arrow, government adjacent, disavowable." "What were they after?" she asked. Tyler didn't answer right away. He reached into the inner lining of his jacket and pulled out a silver chain. Dangling from it was a plastic tag the size of a dime. He popped it open. Inside was a micro SD card. "This," he said quietly, "is what she died for." Mia blinked. "The baby's mother?" Tyler nodded. "Her name was Layla. She was Algerian. Kidnapped while working as a nurse near the Libyan border. I met her during an extraction op. At first, I thought she was just another civilian, but she was carrying this card inside a false tooth. Told me not to trust anyone. Said it had evidence that could unravel a multinational trafficking ring. Names, routes, officials involved, even bank data." Mia held Hope tighter. "And they were using babies?" "They were selling them. Some for money, others for worse." She didn't know how many had already been moved. He looked at Hope now, his voice breaking. "She told me her child had been taken before her eyes. That Hope was the only one she got back." Silence hung like fog. "So you ran," Mia whispered. "She gave me the card and begged me to find someone who could expose it. But by then, Black Arrow was already on our tail. And the van, they ambushed us outside Phoenix. I drove north off the grid, but they hit us near Flagstaff. I told Ranger to get her out, to protect Hope no matter what happened." His voice cracked again. "I thought I was dying. I thought Ranger would die, too. But he didn't." Mia looked at the dog now, sleeping between them like a lion after war. "He saved her," she whispered. "And you?" Tyler nodded slowly. "But that doesn't mean it's over." He placed the card on the desk. "They'll come for this. If it gets decrypted, careers will burn, maybe governments. People don't kill to hide nothing." Mia exhaled. "What do we do?" Tyler didn't hesitate. "We expose them." That night, while Ranger slept in a padded recovery pen and Hope was under hospital protection with round-the-clock guards, Mia drove Tyler to the only place he trusted, an off-grid data analyst named Dorian Kessler, a recluse, a ghost, and a man who owed Tyler his life from a mission years ago in Syria. They parked near a burned-out barn in the Coconino National Forest. "This guy lives here?" Mia asked. "No," Tyler said. "He lives under it." He knocked 4 times on what looked like a pile of abandoned wood. A panel slid open. 15 minutes later, they were 30 feet underground, standing in front of 3 humming servers and a man with a thick beard and tired eyes. Kessler took the SD card without a word, slid it into a reader. What popped onto the screen made Mia step back. Rows of spreadsheets, encrypted chat logs, bank transactions leading to government IP addresses, video clips from inside shipping containers, and dozens of names, some familiar, some too powerful to even Google, without raising red flags. Kessler stared at the screen, then at Tyler. "You weren't kidding." "I never do." "You realize this is a kill list?" Tyler nodded. "That's why I need you to back it up and leak it through 3 secure networks. Full blast. International." Kessler leaned back, thinking. "I'll need 6 hours." "You have 4. The hacker sighed and got to work. But he wasn't the only one moving. Back at the vet clinic, the night shift officer outside heard a sound. Whirring. He turned too late. A dart struck his neck, and he collapsed Two black-clad figures entered the building. They didn't speak. One moved toward the K-9 recovery room, the other toward the files. Ranger was awake instantly. His body screamed with pain as he stood, but he stood. He could smell them. Not Bishop, not Mia, not Wright. The door creaked. Ranger bared his teeth and growled low and guttural. The intruder raised a stun baton, but it was too late. Ranger leapt, despite the stitched ribs, despite the damaged hind leg. He struck the man's chest like a missile, knocking him backward into the wall with a crash that shattered the four stand. The other agent turned, just in time to see Mia's Jeep barrel into the parking lot, headlights flashing. Tyler jumped out with a flashlight and a sidearm. Down. Drop your weapon. The agent hesitated, then ran, but not before tossing something into the kennel room, a small silver orb. Tyler saw it. S******. He dove for it and hurled it back toward the parking lot. It detonated midair in a flash of smoke. Inside, Ranger had collapsed again. Mia was already on the floor beside him, holding his face. "I've got you," she whispered. "We're not losing you now." Tyler rushed in. They wanted to erase him, erase everything. Mia looked up, trembling. "Then we do this now. We end it." At dawn, the data went live. 3 secure leaks hit international news platforms. Whistleblower organizations picked up the files. Screenshots flooded Twitter and Reddit. Faces of powerful men and women began circulating alongside phrases like baby ring, military cover-up, and Algerian nurse turned hero. It was unstoppable. By noon, major arrests had begun in Europe. By nightfall, a U.S. senator resigned. And in Flagstaff, Hope opened her eyes for the first time. Ranger, in recovery, lifted his head again, and Mia, sitting between both of them, knew they had made it through the fire, but not without scars. It had been 3 days since the leak, 3 days since the world turned upside down. Tyler Bishop sat on the back porch of Mia's cabin in the outskirts of Sedona, watching the sun set in silence. His left shoulder was still bandaged in the explosion. His knuckles scraped, his back stiff from sleeping in shifts. But the Real wound was deeper. He hadn't spoken much since the files went public. The relief was there. He could feel in his chest like a distant drumbeat, but it was buried under something heavier. Guilt. For Layla, for the children he couldn't save, and for the dog inside the house, still recovering from wounds meant for him. Ranger. Inside, Mia rocked baby Hope against her chest. The child had grown stronger. She no longer needed tubes or thermal support. Her eyes opened now. She followed light, followed voices, and when she heard Ranger's whimper from the corner, her tiny hand would stretch out in his direction like instinct. The bond between them was still there, silent, sacred. Mia hummed softly, a tune her mother used to sing. She glanced at Ranger's form curled on the rug, still swaddled in dressings. Then her eyes moved a man outside. "You should talk to him," she said to Ranger, smiling faintly, "before he forgets how." Later that night, Tyler was back in the kitchen, shirtless under an open flannel, staring into a bowl of soup he hadn't touched. Mia set down the baby monitor and joined him. "You can't carry all of it," she said softly. He didn't look at her. "I was trained to." She leaned on the counter beside him. "That training's what almost killed you." He sighed, rubbing his face with both hands. "I keep seeing her. Layla, not screaming or afraid, just waiting, like she knew she wasn't going to make it. She gave me that card like it was her last breath, and then I lost her. I lost." He stopped. Mia didn't say anything. "You didn't lose her," she whispered. "You carried her forward, through Ranger, through Hope." He finally looked up. "And through you?" She smiled. "Maybe someone had to hold the pieces while you figured out how to breathe again." His voice dropped. "Why did you stay?" She shrugged. "Because the dog trusted you, and I trusted the dog." Tyler let out a dry laugh, the first real sound of warmth she'd heard in days. Then a noise interrupted them, a low growl from the living room. Tyler froze. Mia followed him into the hallway, heart pounding. Ranger was standing, barely, body rigid, ears forward, teeth bared, toward the window. Tyler followed the line of his gaze and saw it, a red laser dot on the couch. "Down!" he shouted. Mia dove, dragging Hope with her. The glass shattered a second later as the first bullet struck. Tyler rolled toward the entry cabinet and grabbed the pistol he had stashed days earlier. Ranger leapt into action despite the pain, rushing to the baby and standing in front of Mia with a snarl so loud it sounded unnatural. Another shot pierced the wall, inches above their heads. Tyler popped up and returned fire toward the dark woods. Then silence, complete silence. He held his breath, waited. Footsteps, fast, retreating. Someone running. Tyler dashed outside barefoot, gun raised. But by the time he reached the tree line, the attacker was gone. Only tire marks remained in the dust. Back inside, Mia clutched Hope to her chest, trembling. Ranger collapsed at her side, breathing hard but eyes alert. "You stayed," Mia whispered, brushing his head. "You stayed even when it hurt." Tyler returned a minute later, chest heaving. "They weren't finished," he said. "The leak wasn't enough." "But how did they find us?" Mia asked. Tyler checked his phone. Then his jaw clenched. "The vet's clinic." "What?" "I had a backup laptop there. One I thought was clean. They must have found it during the raid. It pinged this address." Mia sat on the floor, still rocking Hope. "What do we do now?" He looked at her, then at the child, then at Ranger. "We disappear." 2 weeks later, the cabin was empty, the Jeep gone, no forwarding address. Mia, Tyler, Hope, and Ranger had vanished off the grid. And no one, not press, not agencies, not enemies, could find them. Because sometimes the best way to survive isn't to fight. It's to vanish and rebuild. 6 months later, in a quiet town in Wyoming, a woman named Carla Jenkins opened the door to her small dog rehabilitation center to greet a new client, a couple. They arrived in a beat-up truck with North Dakota plates. The man had military eyes. The woman had nurse's hands. And the German shepherd that stepped out behind them moved with a limp, but his tail wagged, proud and protective. The child they carried was older now, smiling, healthy. "Name?" Carla asked. "Ranger." The man said, "He's retired now. Just needs a place to run. To remember who he is." Carla smiled. "We can help with that." The couple stayed. Weeks turned into months. Tyler helped train local dogs for rescue work. Mia volunteered as a nurse at a local clinic. Hope learned to walk. And Ranger learned to rest. Sometimes he would still bolt upright at sudden noises. Sometimes he would bark at things no one else could see. But each night, when the wind settled and the porch lights were off, he would curl at the foot of the crib and breathe deeply, because his mission was complete. And for once, he was home. Winter had arrived quietly in the sleepy town of Wapiti, Wyoming. Snow clung to the pine trees like lace. The wind moved slow, respectful, through the valley. Life here didn't rush. It didn't chase. It just existed, peacefully, and for the first time in a very long time. So did Ranger. 6 months had passed since the cabin attack in Arizona. 6 months since Tyler Bishop erased their digital footprints and drove north with Mia, Hope, and a promise that they would never again be hunted for doing the right thing. They'd found Wapiti by accident, but they'd stayed on purpose. The town had no press, no military presence, just kind people, open roads, and a silence that didn't threaten but healed. Tyler worked 3 days a week training search and rescue dogs at Carla Jenkins' center. It wasn't combat. It wasn't command. But it was purpose. Mia took shifts at the free clinic, where she was known as the woman with the miracle baby and the big, quiet dog who never left her side. Hope was almost walking now. She laughed when she fell. She clapped when birds flew overhead. Her eyes were bright, the kind of brightness that comes only when every adult around you loves you deeply, fiercely, and without condition. And every night, she slept with one hand on Ranger's ear. He always let her, even when it pulled, even when it hurt. Because to Ranger, she was the mission. Still, on the first day of spring, Tyler brought home a small wooden box. He set it on the kitchen table and called Mia in. She sat beside him, curious. Inside the box was a badge. Military, weathered, tarnished around the edges. Beneath it was a letter. He unfolded it carefully and handed it to her. Mia read aloud. To Staff Sergeant Tyler Bishop, the United States Army acknowledges the bravery, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty demonstrated during your unauthorized yet heroic actions in North Africa. While your decisions were outside protocol, the impact of your actions has changed lives, exposed criminal networks, and saved innocents. The enclosed badge is returned with honor, not judgment. You were right. We were late, but history won't be. General Marcus E. Dwyer, U.S. Army Command. Mia looked up at him, eyes glistening. You didn't tell me they sent this. I wasn't ready, Tyler said. I spent so long hiding. I forgot what it felt like to be seen. She reached across the table and took his hand. Well, we see you now. He smiled, but there was more in the box. Another envelope. Inside it was a certificate. Adoption papers. Hope's new last name. Hope Carter Bishop. Mia laughed through the tears. You did it. He nodded, eyes wet. We did. Then a soft bark came from the living room. Ranger stood there, watching them. His tail wagged once. Almost a bow. They laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was home. That evening, they went for a walk. The three of them. Mia carrying Hope, Tyler at her side, and Ranger, limping slightly but proud, walking ahead. They followed the ridge trail that curved above the town. The sun was setting behind the mountains, bathing the sky in orange and indigo. And for a moment, time stopped. Mia turned to Tyler. Do you think he knows? Ranger? Yeah, that he saved all of us. Tyler watched the old shepherd sniffing the snow, tail swaying gently. I think he never needed to know. Mia raised a brow. Why not? Because saving us wasn't a task. It was a choice, a promise, one he made to Layla and one he kept. They walked in silence for a while longer. Then Hope let out a tiny coo, and Ranger immediately turned back to look, just like always. That night, Ranger lay at the footbed, the wind rustling the trees outside. Tyler and Mia were asleep. Hope stirred in her crib, mumbling softly. Ranger got up, slowly, carefully, and walked to her side. She opened her eyes, looked up. Tiny fingers reached for his muzzle, and he licked her hand once, then lay down beside the crib, guarding her. Still, forever.